that was one of the main things that they were trying to communicate to me this summer, was even, you know, the extent of the education system, and how even the education system further perpetuates this racist institution, and it further perpetuates it. And so, well, now, I mean, even in every class, like, I take some of my books home, you know, and have discussions with them about what I learned in class or whatever, you know, something that happened. And so, even I remember one of the specific ones was about, I think, like, Indian art, and they were talking about how the book was explaining how, like, the Aryan race created Buddhism and Hinduism, and it was, well, not Buddhism, Hinduism, and from Hinduism came Buddhism, and it didn't give, and then they gave me an entirely different perspective about, as you'll see on the Afro chart, like, there about tribes that were originally there, that were there with the Aryan tribe, and how the Aryans took credit for something that had already been established. And not having that in the education system makes it really hard to be in the class and not, you know, I'm not gonna, I can't just sit there and, like, you know, keep my hand down anymore.
Question everything.
Yeah.
How do your teachers take to that?
Some of them don't. just kind of like an okay, and then moving on.
That's a terrible teacher, that is.
Some of them do try, but some of them do try to get. So I usually have discussions after class. A lot of them end up being with my philosophy and English teachers.
Of course.
You know, now of course they're. Well, I mean, I'm glad that they're both good teachers, so that they're more receptive. But, you know, as far as, like, the history teacher goes, it's like, you know,
They don't want to be
what are you what are you trying to tell me about history? Like, you know, it's written, it's in stone, it's, but, you know, history, yeah, exactly.
I got turned over and stuff.
And so, you know, luckily my philosophy and English teachers are very receptive to what I have to say. And usually they'll let me speak my piece, and then they'll even challenge me on my view, so that I have to elaborate more for my classmates. So it allows for more the spreading of the wealth.
Good practice.
And so I do appreciate them for that. But I do notice that it's that I can't just keep my hand down anymore.
You want us to get back to it?
I mean, are you guys thinking about what we can do? I think somebody just asked you this question, but I think everybody keeps coming back to what can we do and what can we do, and basically the difference between the civil rights era and now is that the power that corporations have and the way that ideas have been institutionalized in the corporate and economic system is huge. And I don't think citizens are feeling empowered or are empowered or even think on their own the way they did then. I'm partly worried about not only increasing hate groups and white nationalist groups. I just read about a new young fellow in Paoli, Indiana, who the conservative white hate groups are not conservative enough for him, are not hateful enough for him, so he started his own. And so I worry about from the bottom up, from the worst parts of, you know, uneducated, fearful society, that we're going to have the old Jim Crow even coming up, as well as from the top, this institutional, corporatized racism that so many people don't even see right now. I think getting people talking about it is a start. And I don't know. I just.
Thank you.
What can I do?
I think I got asked the same question last when we did the Trayvon Martin forum, and to be completely honest, I don't have an answer. I know that there are certain ways of what we do, of having a space where people can be open and come talk about what they feel is very important, and I've noticed that has been very effective and very helpful. And then when those people go back to whatever they do, such as even myself, during the day when I go back to school, then that truth is still being spread. But as far as what you can do, I'm not sure if I have a clear enough answer for you.
Yeah.
Well,
Question, I like to ask this meeting today is a clear example about the power of our ability to do without corporate interest or corporate interference. This stuff we've done on our own, self-reliance, self-determination, and a form of resilience. What is 25, 30 people in the room on Saturday afternoon talking about the new Jim Crow. So that may seem to be a small matter, but it's actually a very powerful course of action that we've taken. We've got two 17-year-olds who've been real impressive with struggling and grappling with some rather challenging ideas. And as Keenan already said, his peer ain't trying to hear it. And Rasul, in a very polite way, said he don't have any peers. Other than the old people that always get around. So we should not undervalue the importance of this experience right now. From the youngest person in the room to the oldest person in the room. It's intergenerational, it's multiracial. Clearly a diverse income base in the room. I won't say anything about my income stream right now. But
Yeah, income stream?
non-existent.
Yeah, right. So our ability to come together and have a civil discourse around something along this line is really powerful to the work that we do. Now, the other thing that comes out of this is that you're going to go talk to somebody else.
That's right.
You're going to talk to somebody else. And then through that thing, this movement that she's calling for, it begins through this kind of effort. And then, so I'll stop there. I just think that that's important for us to keep in mind that we are capable of resisting, challenging, and changing the world just with our own resilience.
She wanted to say something.
Well, discussion to me, everybody's discussing. We gotta take some of our discussions into action. Now, my youngest son, he went to prison, and when he got through doing his time, I was like, you are not going to go back that route again. We have to get out here and we have to direct our youth. I knew that my son had a lot of energy, so I just about took him to the door of the iron workers, and I made him go over there to Ivy Tech, take welding, get you had to do action, and my son's doing just fine now, and now he's helping other people. He has a felony on his record, but he's still successful, and he reaches back down for the younger guys to try to keep them from making the mistake that he made. You can talk all you want to. If everybody in this room help 10 people, that's a lot of people that the younger people, they need direction. You know, they don't want to sit down and listen to all this. Sometimes you have to direct them, and then they will see, and then they'll reach back gladly and help somebody else. You know, my son was very secretive to me. I was just in shock, you know, when they called and said that my baby was in jail. I was just in shock because I did not know what was going on. You know, he kept it a good secret. You know, but then that's when I came in after it was too late and they had these mandatory sentences. My son never went to juvenile, never went to jail, had a clean record, and they put him in, he had to give up 6 years of his life on the first offense. You know, they have changed that now, where if he had got in trouble now on the first offense, I might have been able to help him so that he wouldn't have a record.
I don't know about that. I don't know
Well, they
that.
changing the,
Tanya, I don't know, bro.
Prosecutors have to put so much stuff on those kids,
But
they.
the important thing is that you are
Yes,
saying
the important thing
is
you're
that you're
saying.
taking action.
you gotta take action, you can't just keep on talking.
But hold on, but the talk is important too, because what you've done today by sharing is you share with others, there is something you can do. Here's what I did. Here's what course of action I've taken with my son to allow him to move his life forward. So the conversation is important because if we had not shared, we would not have known.
And my son reaches down, he tried to catch someone they
So
like his age.
Yeah, and so I'm saying, and now your son is actually doing what others need to do, but it's important that we share and communicate, because sometimes we just don't think we can do anything, and we can. And that's what one of the real important thing is about gathering and talking with each other about possibilities.
So we'll go out.
Right. And I'm glad you shared.
Discussion is a tool for action.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rasul.
So brief.
Right.
First of all, I want to commend you, young brothers, for taking the time, number one, taking the time to learn. That's important. I would encourage you to do so. Then the other thing here, this facility over the years has provided so much for young men to find themselves. And it needs to be continued to be supported, self-sustained. Now, as a stakeholder, I see propaganda coming down the pipeline, and it's coming down through crimes that's being committed by our young brothers. The home invasion is stimulated racism to its highest in terms of buying guns, in terms of being flashed continuously on TV, these faces of these young men that you need to be scared of. Looking at the young sister that her face was blown off, asking for help. So it sends a signal being sent, incarceration, mass incarceration, increasing by the public, by those offenders. So as we sit here in discussion, we still need to somehow find out how to reach these young people who are not using intelligence. Now, is it because of what we have placed in terms of materialistic things that value more than self-esteem and respect as a group of, as a people? I'm not sure, but it's something that I'm very concerned with, and hope it's going to be more discussion for more people. So the only thing I can say is for y'all, you keep on doing what you're doing, and I got $20 for you right now.
All right, Mr. Fish.
I just got one problem with the terminology white supremacy and white privilege, and I think that's over-generalization. There are a lot of poor and struggling whites. There are, when the Alphabet people talk about 99%, that's also a lot of whites in that too. The 1% doesn't represent all whites, and I think also a lot of whites have been involved in social justice movements, are people of conscience, and that even includes lower middle class and working class whites, including myself, a college graduate who's actually lived in poverty because I can't find a job because I'm either this or that. I think white supremacy as applied to whites generally or across the board, I think is a gross simplification, which I personally find insulting because but that's all I'm going to say on that, and I like your response.
Okay.
Maybe especially from the white professor.
These are mine. I'm good.
Well, it's definitely true that we have different economic classes of whites. There are poor whites, middle class whites, upper income whites, and certainly most whites are not participants in what you might call the power elite. There's definitely class oppression, and negative or oppressive discourses around class. I also think it's important, as I think these two young men discussed earlier, is that we see the power elite doing political manipulations to separate low-income whites from African Americans, Latinos. The power elite got very frightened when Martin Luther King moved from just racial issues to socioeconomic issues and to the Vietnam War issues. There's a lot of effort by the power elite to capture whites' attitudes to be negative toward African Americans. In fact, I would say a lot of this effort, and you can see this in the Reagan and in the Nixon campaigns and the campaigns of others to divide people, because if they start getting together, then the power elite's going to lose a lot of its power. So I think one of the bill of goods, you could say, that gets sold to even low-income whites is at least we're better than black people, So I think white supremacy is a complex construct that gets sold to people. I don't think when people say white supremacy, they're saying there isn't a low-income group of whites, and I don't think it's saying that that group doesn't experience oppression itself. But I think instead what they're saying is that what gets communicated generally in society, what some people call the dominant discourse or the master narrative, is that even if you're poor white, there's somebody that's got less than you do. Another part of it, I think, is we have lots of research, so even if a low-income white and a low-income black apply for the same job, the low-income white on average, not every time, but on average is going to get the job over the black person. There's a discourse out there that that's not what's happening, that blacks are getting the jobs, and that's just not true. Another good example is on getting loans to buy houses. You can have a low-income white couple with the same resources as a low-income black couple, and on average, the low-income white couple will get the loan, and when they get the loan, they'll get a better percent. So I think what the white supremacy is saying, it's not saying that there isn't oppression of low-income whites. It's saying that the system, when low-income whites and low-income blacks are compared, the low-income whites on average, and this doesn't mean every case, just on average, gets the better opportunity. So I think it's about a system. It's not about that many whites aren't oppressed. And I think the goal of that system is to keep low-income whites, low-income blacks, low-income Latinos separated and fighting each other. Because if I'm in a power position and I can keep those in a lesser position fighting each other, that's dollars for me. You know, that's more power for me. And I think that's what it's about. So I think we have to be very very careful about how we understand that concept of white supremacy.
All right.
That's my white professor answer.
All right, sir.
You know, we have many communication skills today, tools today. Blogs. You also have Facebook, you know, where that's a beautiful presentation where you can present the views you've given on blog. I know this personally because I had a Christian blog myself. My daughter helped me get together and my son-in-law. So you can do that. You can reach people that want to read it, you know what I'm saying? That's about the best way. Because you know the media, like the television not going to do it. And neither the newspaper. So you got those tools, you know.
Well,
what you did.
the KI Echo Center has been drawing me into this blogging and YouTube.
I even want to come in and do
They'll be
it.
there, won't they?
All right. Yeah.
It's 10 till 2. We want to wrap up about
4 till 2.
We're welcome to stay after, kicking around. So if you guys got one or two more questions, we'll facilitate those. I do want to make one small presentation, and that is KI Echo Center is a self-funded 501c3, which means we can do this because you guys help support us do this. So how can we help? Well, one is you can just give money like was just demonstrated earlier, a form of action. We take cash, of course, and checks. So that's one option. Another one is we have what we call empowerment enterprises. Is Keenan Media still in the house?
He's right behind you.
Behind us here is our flagship social enterprise, web design, social media, graphic design. That's why you don't see these guys much because they're in that room back there getting the bills paid. Their work, as others will share with you, is competitive with others. You see Keenan Media, that must be Keenan Media's work. So you can support it by either your organization or places you know that need service. Just spread the word. Say, hey, I know this great company that does great work and doing great computer type work, but also doing great work for the community. Eco Fashion's in the house. I'm sure we've got some Eco Fashion bags around. Feel free to purchase one of those bags. Express Yourself Rain Barrels, where we are manufacturing rain barrels, intergenerational initiative. And through these enterprises, we are trying to demonstrate self-reliance and self-determination by starting where you are, what you have. Now, of course, you can just give money. And for you big balls in the house, December is coming up. You look at those tax write-offs, Ms. Red already told you 501c3, we can give you a tax form for that. So one of the ways we're able to maintain our independent voice is that philosophically we're trying to make sure that our funding stream is balanced enough so that if we say something other folks don't like, and then the dollars just happen to disappear and don't get refunded next year, we can still come in and do what we want and say the things that need to be said, or as Michelle said, be bold and courageous. So please don't forget us on that lens. We'll take a few more questions. Our goal with this text is to have these two young men lead us through the whole book for the next several months, chapter by chapter. I would like to challenge each of you guys, and also you young people, to bring at least one young person with you. And you know, a lot of times young people not trying to hear us talk, but they see their peers talking. It helps engage that conversation and helps, I think, reduce some of the social fear about being intellectual and being scholarly. That you know you can keep your game face on and know something and talk about things that are relevant and important. So I'd like to challenge everyone to consider bringing someone else, one of your relatives or friend of yours. And sometimes you just have to pay it. Look, come on over here, I'm going to give you $10. Take it out of your donation card. Just come over, I want you to get a crazy come over today. Something, but just try to figure out a way to increase the number of young people who are present in the room. So, again, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over for the last couple of questions, then we'll give these young men a great round of applause for leading in this conversation. Other questions?
Any questions?
Let's just get these guys a blue collar. Woo!
I just put some coffee on if somebody would
I'm proud to say I've been in the volunteer list and back to this.
No, I went to Brown River. We got slave work in the baseball.
Good job. I think someone gets into kind of a blend game like confession and that. I think basically I made fun of you. It wasn't so much a question
I want you to tell me what is diversity?
It's called black which is
just because I can $50 and buy a competition and you can't, that doesn't make you buy a freshman year.
There were a lot more. Like it was the most popular club. We had beat
I tried to
student council in Walmart. Well, like freshman year, but I wasn't a leader then. And there was like 4 or 5 seniors that were like that had established their presence. So people came to the club not only because they wanted to do what they had to say, but out of respect for the people who were like that's one of the main things that had a challenge.
Now I get Social Security and a huge $23,000
Oh yeah, I've been a president since I was
making between $13,000 and $17,000.
Like one of the, I mean, there's
so like
I mean, it kind of I guess it was good.
Making almost $23,000.
And then.
By the way, I have a degree in
economics. Go to this conference called the Student Diversity Leadership Conference, and they hold it in a different city every year. And I got to go twice. And that's one of those conferences where you sit there and you're faced with everybody from all walks of life. And we're all private school students that are going to, like, you know, we're all the, I mean, the range is there. So you have, you know, very black people to poor, really poor white people. But we all just go to private school. We're all in this conference. We're all from all over the country. But like this, and that was probably like that's one of the tearjerker conferences. Everyone knew like Jesus. We're terrible. We've all been terrible people for so long.